Okay, hello everyone.
Hello.
Yeah. Where are the others? Okay, so let me go ahead and start my share my screen. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the database connectivity. As usual, the lecture is getting recorded, but we'll do some practical exercise. Okay, so hopefully you can learn from practical exercises as well. But again, after this one, I upload the lecture, and then you have to also watch the lecture, because in the lecture we discuss kind of the theoretical aspects. Okay, so let's go and get the lab. Okay, so I uploaded the lab exercise as usual. So let me go and accept the lab 9. Accept the lab 9. And it should go and create a new repository. Let me go and find that repository. The deadline is, I gave a little bit more, it's 27th of December. So I'll copy that. Okay, so let me go to lab this one and then say create a solution folder. And inside the solution folder, I would like to clone my current assignment. Okay, cool. So let me go and open this assignment now. Okay, so yeah, before I go into this assignment, I think I forgot. Do you have any questions related to the previous lectures, materials, or labs? Anything that you would like to ask before I just dive into this lab? Basically, I'm just going to do the third one. This one you have to do it yourself because we covered both of these things in lecture. Just need to we'll discuss about that later, but I'm just asking if you have any questions related to the lecture or the labs or to okay, to your course project, anything.
Professor?
Yes?
I think these upcoming the lectures about the files and database, right? Because I want to know more about the files and who is working with files kind of database.
Yeah. I mean, this is about databases. In the next lecture, we'll talk about streams, and there I'll show you how to work with the file stream, and then you can. It's pretty easy. Like I'll show you, but it's a topic of the next lecture. In the next lecture, we'll talk about streams, collections, and some files. Okay, so how you can go and access, let's say, files from your local drive, how you can go and write something to your local drive. This is one thing, but other than that, how you can go and deal with the collection objects or get generic objects. We'll properly define the word generic because we've been using this generic like diamond notation here and there, but you don't have a kind of complete understanding about what that diamond notation is, right? So what does it do and how you can go and define your custom generic classes, okay, or generic collections with this diamond notation. So you can go and do this and we're going to look into those aspects of Java in the next lecture. Okay, and we're going to look into how you can go and write some like function-oriented constructs in Java, like using some Lambda functions or something like that. We'll talk about Lambda functions, and then we'll talk about, so there are 3 topics that we'll be discussing. So I don't want to jump ahead, but this is the topic for the next lecture. In this lecture, we will talk about databases. And then database, not just only about databases, but also about how to use databases in Swing and in JavaFX, and then how to ship your application with the database to someone. Okay, so the other guys can use their application. Okay, so we'll discuss about those things in this lecture, in this week's topic. And in this particular lab, we'll be building a JavaFX application, okay, which stores data in the database and then retrieves that from the database. So that is crucial. That is important part of your course project, and it's important that you learn how to implement, how to use databases in your in your projects. Okay, so that's important. Any more questions?
Okay.
I have a question, Professor.
Yes.
You told to tape a video regarding how to work on GitHub, collaborate with group mates.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That is still on my head. I'll sorry for this delay, guys, because yeah, I have this plan. I will create simple video. Basically, I have one video. I can share it in the Telegram channel. I prepared it for internet programming class previous year. It is basically that, but what I want to do is I would like to show you how to do the same thing with IntelliJ. So you don't need to go and write all these Git commands in your command line. You can simply do that from the IntelliJ. Like you normally do commits and then pushes and pulls. You do it from IntelliJ, right? Like the way like the way I showed you in the beginning of the semester. So I'll show you how to create branches, and I'll show you how to merge branches using IntelliJ, and then how to submit pull requests, and then review pull requests, and then merge those branches on the GitHub. So these are the procedures that most developers use in order to collaborate together. And again, I understand it could be new to you, and you might not like do everything to the word, but still it is worth understanding how the teamwork actually is organized in a developer teams, and how GitHub can be used for that purpose. So I'll just give a small sort of a demo. Okay, I think I'd better do it with a Zoom meeting, because you guys can ask your questions afterwards, and I'll keep recording that. So I think, yeah, it makes sense if I go and record that in the Zoom, not like a separate lecture, because I think it would make sense if you go and ask questions, because it's important for you to do the collaboration, okay, within your team, of course.
Yes. Thank you.
So I'll let you know the date tentatively, okay, tentatively. Okay, it's going to be next week, the first half of the week, I guess. Okay, so it's going to be next week, the first half. And I'll let you know the time and date 1 or 2 days before, so you guys can prepare. If you don't have a good connection, like, you can go and find a good internet connection or something. So I'll let you know like 1 or 2 days before this meeting date, okay? And,
Okay. Yes.
and then you can watch that, and then we can record it and put it to YouTube so others can watch as well. So, but if you have any questions in the process of developing your whatever project, then you go ahead and ask them. I prepared this special like forum. I just from time to time I check that, and no one actually writes anything there. I mean, if you have questions, don't hesitate. Just write your questions here. You have a special place where you can go and write your questions. Okay. So you can go and write your questions in the group project section if it's related to your group project, and I'll be answering all of those questions. Okay, so everything gets resolved here. Okay, so if I like if you go and ask the question, well, why I recommend you to ask questions, okay? Why? Because you ask the question, you clarify the thing, and you get my answer. Let's say you say, Professor, can I go and use MySQL in my database, right? And I go and say, okay, let's say yes. Although in the requirement of the project, it said no, right? It's clearly said that you cannot use MySQL, but in this discussion, you said, I'm going to use MySQL, and can I use it? And I said yes, right? And then you submit your project, right? And then I evaluate your project, and I check that, oh yeah, and I see that you did your project and the MySQL, I used MySQL, and I just give you 0 points for database integration. And they come back to me and say, like, why did you give me 0 for that particular criteria? I say, okay, you used MySQL. It wasn't required in the project. And then you can come back to this particular forum and then point that, okay, you said this, and that's why I did this. Okay, and that could be an argument against this kind of conflicts or things that you might, okay, so you might point those things to me, and I can, okay, I can say, okay, that's right, yeah, I gave you, in this particular exceptional case, I gave you the permission, that's why you got, you used the MySQL or something, and that's why your particular case should be evaluated, okay? So this helps you to resolve your conflicts in the future with the grades. So if you have any hesitation, right, in your head, don't just walk with it, okay? Just write this question into the group project. Let's have a discussion, okay? Yes, there are requirements in the project, but again, every case is different. And again, I'm not saying that you have to use MySQL. I'm strictly against MySQL right now, and I'll explain you why I'm against MySQL, okay? When we discuss about the databases. But there can be other questions, other things that are not specified in the project specification or something else. Like again, those things, the certain parts could be open for discussion, and you need a clarification. You go and post this question, so you get my answer for that particular clarification, okay? And if something gets misunderstood in your project's evaluation, you can always come back and say, oh, you remember I asked this thing and you answered it this way, that's why I did it this way. And I can say, oh, that's a good point. So yeah, definitely I gave you this kind of exceptional thing. That's why you got, okay, so I can change my mind. I mean, I can change my grade after that, because when I be evaluating, I can remember that let's say that I gave you this kind of, that I said yes for this particular case. You got my point, right? So that's the point. You can use your questions, you can use this against me. So, and it's always be on the safe side, okay? If you have anything that you're hesitating, please post a question. Get things clarified before it's not too late, okay? After you submit the group project and I go and evaluate, and then I just go and give 0, and then just you go and resolve problems, okay, your conflicts like this, it is going to be difficult or tough, or it's absolutely impossible. Like you saw it in the midterm appeals, right? So don't do these kind of things. Be always on the safe side. Ask it first, okay? And if you get my permission, if you get my go ahead, then just go and do it this way. And in the evaluation process, you come back, say, okay, you did this thing, you asked this thing, I answered this thing. It's clear, it's visible here, everyone can see it, okay? And then your conflict is resolved. Is it clear?
Yes, good evening, Professor. Can I ask you about some question about SQL?
Yeah, we'll talk about SQL right now, so
No,
so
optional question about SQL. Can we use Oracle SQL or PL SQL?
No, you cannot use Oracle, PL SQL or anything.
Why not?
Okay, you're again jumping ahead. Okay, let me come to the point. We're going to discuss about that right now.
Okay.
And I'll explain you why you cannot use all those things right now. Okay, because there is certain limitations or certain, let's say, difficulties of evaluating your work if you use those things. Okay, so okay, at this moment, you have any other questions? Any other questions? No questions? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, then let's go ahead and start discussing about our lab exercises. I'll leave these 2 exercises for you to complete yourself, and you have to do it after watching the lecture, because once you watch the lecture, you understand we basically discuss about 2 databases, books and the AddressBook database, and the code for this, both of them is given here. Okay, you can see them. All you need to do is just add additional functionality to this particular program, and this one you just need to go and create some simple console application which uses this one. Okay, so in this particular lab, what we're gonna do is we're gonna build an address book using the JavaFX, and for that we will be using the Apache Derby or JavaDB as a standalone embedded database. Okay, so and in this particular project, we'll be using this Apache Derby database management system, right? So, so let me go and show you how you can go and install this thing on your computer before you can go and start the project with it. Okay, so Apache Derby is an open source standalone local database management system. You can go and search for that, and it basically gives you that. And so the steps of installation are given in your lecture notes. Let me show you those steps. So let's go and follow those steps together, so you don't get confused. Okay, so you just need to go and download this particular file if you're a Windows user. If you're a Mac user, then you can go and download the Mac edition. So you go into the downloads, and then you go and download the latest version. This is the latest version. And if you're a Windows user, download this file. If you're a Mac user or Linux user, you can go and download this file. Okay, so I'll download this file. Let me go and download it into my downloads folder. Okay, so, and okay. So yeah, regarding the question, why can't you use Oracle or any other database? The reason is that the Apache Derby is, as I said, is a small, lightweight, embedded database. It doesn't need a server to run. Okay, it doesn't need any an infrastructure to run your application. It basically runs within your application. Okay. So you just need to import its functionality into your application as a dependency, and then you can use it within your application. Okay, so all of its functionality, like for searching the rows records or for inserting records into the database, all of it is kind of part of your application because it's kind of the dependency, and then I mean it's a component, it's a library, so you just import it into your application. And then you have all the functionality to read, I mean, to execute SQL queries from your application. You don't have to, okay, set up a server, set a different server, okay, on some other computer, on the local computer, and then you connect to this server through the client and so forth. Of course, Apache Derby has the network version too. In this case, again, you can run the local database server, and then you can connect to the database server from your application. And most of the times, like these applications, they use like a client server architecture where your application is basically the one which plays the role of a client, and the server is kind of the database, and it has to be running somewhere in your like somewhere in an open world, in an open domain. It's like you need to have a server which runs that database management system, and it has to be running all around the clock. So it shouldn't be like off or anything, to make sure that your application functions properly, right? But with Apache Derby, okay, the Derby has the embedded version, okay? So in the embedded version of the Derby means, as I said, it includes all the functionality of the database management system into your application. So normally this DBMS functionality is implemented as a separate application, as a server application, which runs somewhere on a different place, right? But now what we are doing is we're kind of containing, okay, all the DBMS functionality into our application. And now our application is both an application plus a DBMS as well, because it knows how to work with the SQL, right? So we're just combining these two things into our application. And now we can basically just need some database file or database folder, and then we can read this folder. We can, database file. We can read that data from this database file. We can write something to the database file using the standard SQL that we know, right? So, and that's the reason, okay, we don't need any particular infrastructure. We can ship our product, our application, okay, with the database, and the client, the user doesn't need to go and set up all the infrastructure on his computer. He just needs to download, okay, the compiled, okay, distribution files, and I'll show you how to do the shipment as well at the end of the lecture, how you have to ship your application to the user, okay, so the user can go and run this particular application on his computer, okay, with a database, and it's not dependent on internet connection, it's not dependent on anything else. It just comes with a database and your application, and you start your application. It goes and loads the database, okay, from the local disk, and then it goes and does all the database related operations there. So that's kind of the reason why I don't want you to use Oracle, because Oracle is a server-based database management system. And in order to run the Oracle, somewhere you need to go and have an Oracle or a server. Otherwise, I won't be able to run your application, okay? And the same goes for MySQL server, okay? MySQL or any other big database management systems. There is another option, like the SQLite, for example, and the SQLite is something similar to Apache Derby. But in your book, in your textbook, the Apache Derby is used, okay? So, and basically, I don't see any big difference in using Apache Derby or SQLite, okay? So you can use both. But again, the book basically says you have to use Derby. Shows the code in Derby. So go and use Derby because it's recommended, and you have less headaches, okay, with SQLite and all that stuff. But again, I'll show you it's not a big deal. It's just you just change one line of code, and then it basically works in SQLite. Okay, so we'll talk about that. But again, for the purpose of this particular lecture and for the purpose of your course project, I want you to use Apache Derby, because Apache Derby is a lightweight embedded database. It can be embedded, its logic, its DBMS functionality can be embedded into your application, okay? And the actual file database file can be stored locally along with your application, okay? So you don't need any particular infrastructure for that. That's the reason I don't want you to guys use all these Oracle and all these things, because it makes your life difficult, and you might need to go and find servers, and this server might be running or something. Okay, so don't do this. We're going to talk about this kind of server-based architecture as well when we start developing web pages in a different class called internet programming. But in this lecture, we're developing a desktop application, and let's make our desktop application a standalone application. It's not dependent on anything else other than the application itself. Okay, that's our goal. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now let me go and show you how to do the installation. Okay, installation is pretty straightforward. Okay, you just need to have this particular zip file. You just downloaded this zip file. Okay, so you go and find a safe location for this file. Okay, normally it is program files or anything, but I don't go and put things in program files. Maybe I just go and put something in the program data or something, but you go and do in your program files, or if you're using other machines, make sure that there is a safe location. In the safe location, you have to go and create a folder, maybe call it Apache Derby, any folder you want, okay, and then unpack this particular file. Okay, you unpack this file, and if you go and unpack it, this is the content of your the file that you downloaded. Let me show you that this is the content. So this is the file, right? So let me go and open the file. Yeah, I'm not going to unpack it. It's already unpacked. But if I go and show you that this is basically the content, I want this content to be here in your in the safe location. Okay, so this is the safe location which is not going to be changed. So you can see it is exactly the same, right? So so once you unpack this particular zip file into your safe location, you have to go to your bin directory, and inside the bin directory you're going to find this. Okay, if you're using Windows, you're going to find set embedded cp.bat file. Okay, so you just need to go and run this particular file, maybe as an administrator. If you're using Linux, okay, you just need to run this script. Okay, it's just a script, you can run it. I mean, if you're using Linux, you should know how to run the scripts. You just need to run that script. If you're using Windows, just, okay, run this bat file. So if you go and do this, it simply goes and shows you that. I mean, just blinks this thing. So and then you can go to the system info. Oops, yeah, and yeah, so I'd rather go and open a common shell here. You can open the common shell as well here. So in the same directory. So, and you can, if you go and say system info, sysinfo. So you're going to see that, okay, you have your Derby installed and everything installed. All that stuff is installed on your computer. Okay, so if it shows you that, then it means that you guys did the good job. I mean, it's working and your Java is identified, everything is identified. Make sure that your Java version is 11, Amazon Creator is everything, and that's it. Now you have, okay, Derby installed into your computer. Okay, and it's stored in this particular place. So the next thing you're going to do is, okay, you have to make sure that Derby is included into your project. Okay, but first of all, okay, let me show you how you can, open a new project in IntelliJ. So let me go and open a new project. Sorry. Okay, so I'll go and open a new project. Let me go and say, so let's go and call it JavaFX project. And I'm going to say AddressBook 2. Okay, so because it's 2. So it goes and creates a new FX, okay, JavaFX project. Okay, so make sure it's a JavaFX project. It's not something else. It's not just a standard Java project. Okay, that's important. So now we need to go and make sure that this particular project contains all the dependencies. Okay, so okay, you remember we created this thing. Okay, JavaFX, this one, and we included all these libraries. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing for the Derby. Okay, so let me go and say Derby, and then go into the place where I just downloaded and unpacked my Derby thing. And then here I have these jar files, right? So I'm going to, okay, it has some localizations. In fact, I just need this, the Derby run and then Derby, there's 3 files. Okay, let me go and do this one as well. In fact, I just need this Derby file. Okay, the client is something that if I'm using a network-based connection, I just need this library, and the net is just running the server. Okay, let's go and just add these files just in case. Okay, so I'm just adding these files. Okay, Derby jar, Derby client jar, Derby not, the tools, run, shared, and tools. So these jar files I'm adding. I don't need the localization. I just need these jar files. I'm clicking OK. And it asks me, do I want to include this particular bundle of libraries into my current project? And I say yes. Okay. And now I can go into my project, okay, and I see that, okay, I have Derby as a dependency in my project. Now I just need to add JavaFX also as a dependency. You know how to add that. I go right click, add to modules, and it's asked, you want to add it to this project? I say yes. And if I go back into my project again, modules, and I can see that my JavaFX is also a dependency. So now I got two dependencies, okay? The library for running, okay, for connecting to the Derby database. And these are the drivers it contains the drivers for connecting to the Apache Derby database, okay? And we'll talk about the drivers and the way how it interacts, okay, in the lecture. But we just need this driver, okay, to make sure that we can establish a connection to the Derby database, which is kind of a local file. And then we just need the JavaFX, okay? So now I included all that stuff, and so now I can go into my source folder and I include, yeah, let me first go and rename it to something else. Let me go and rename it to AddressBook, right? And let me rename this one to main window. This is the main window. I just need to have a main window. So I'll go and call it main, right? And just to ensure that everything is working properly, let me go and create a label. And the text is going to be hello world. Okay, this is just a grid pane, everything. And let me go and make this particular width, I don't know, 800. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, 600 would be okay, I guess, 600. Okay, and then what we need to do, we need to go and create a module file, right? Module info file. Inside the module info file, I say requires JavaFX controls, requires JavaFX fxml, and I'll say opens AddressBook. Right, so this is the this is my module file, and it contains all the dependencies, the external dependencies, okay, the dependencies that I'm not inside the JDK, right? So like starting from there've been students coming and complaining about using Java 8, and then having these problems with the with this module info. The reason you guys having problem is in Java 8, JavaFX is included inside the standard library in JDK. So you don't need to go and indicate the external libraries, okay, that you are importing from here, okay, into your module, right? You can simply go and you don't need this requires things there, and you can simply run it like this, right? But okay, starting from Java 11, Java SDK 11, the JavaFX is a completely new, I mean, it's a separate module. It's a different library. It's not included into the standard library. And that's why we are including it as an external library here. And we are saying in our module that we need these, okay, these particular names, controls inside our particular Java application. That's why we're declaring that. Again, we are saying that, okay, we need to open that particular, because this is the entry point of our application. And it has to start from this particular package, which has the main class, and the main class has the, okay, the launch method. The application has the launch method. So JVM knows how to launch the application. Okay, so now I just created this module info file, right? Let me go and start my application. Cool. Okay, so, and now you can see, okay, it's just a simple window with hello world. So my JavaFX application is working great. So now what I need to do is I need to go and create a database. How I'm going to create a database. So first of all, I just need to go and create the folder. And this folder, again, it's in the root of my project. I go and create a folder called DB. And inside DB, first, I just want to go and define the structure of my database, right? So I'll go to addressbook.sql. So, and this particular SQL file contains the structure of my database, okay? So if in this case, I mean, I just need to go and create tables, right? So what kind of tables I can have? I just have a single table in this particular database. So I just need to drop the table called addresses if it basically exists. And then why I'm dropping it, because I don't need this. If I'm going to run this script, I don't want to override. I mean, it will cause an error if I try to create the addresses table, even if it exists. Okay. So in this addresses table, I basically have the following fields, right? So I got an address ID, and it's an integer, right? Basically in Derby database, you can, let me show you the Derby. You got basically three data types, okay? Integer, float, and the string. Sorry, the varchar. It's not kind of a very rich database language. Let me go and show you the sort of the documentation. So I'll share this link as well. So you can see the data types here. So it has integer, big int, and the float, and the decimal, right? And somewhere it should have the varchar as well, right? So the varchar, yeah. Yeah, so these are the data types that Apache Derby supports. And where's the varchar? Right? Yeah, wait. So you got a create table here, and then the create table, different data types. Yeah, varchar is just a string. Okay, so you just need to specify the length of the string. But here I just need the an integer. Right, so I can go and say it's going to be a primary key, and it's going to be auto incremented. So I have to say generated always as identity.
Professor?
And yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I want to ask about the module info class. Can it refer to many packets? Like in one project, I would like to do like another GUI application with JavaFX, and I don't have to create another module info class, yeah?
No, you have to indicate you don't. Look, your module info is inside this particular source folder, right? So in this particular case, you got a module info Java, and then you can go and you can have multiple different projects, but you need to have an entry point, right, for your application. Like you cannot have like 2-3 entry points. So whichever entry point you indicate, it will go and load that particular JavaFX FXML, right? And then you can go and load other things. But again, this is not recommended. You just go, you have this particular AddressBook package, you create all your windows and everything inside this package, and then indicate to this particular package. Okay,
like,
so
in lab we have different problems, yeah? Like for each problem, we create a controller main and
I see.
XML
Okay, I see
file,
your
yeah.
problem. I see your problem.
How can I do it in one project, or should I open a new project for each problem?
Okay, I got your point.
Because they are all like connected, yeah, like XML file and module.
Yeah. So what you can do is you can create a single app class, and then a file, and inside you could try to create the instance of this particular main, and then call the launch method directly from the app, like the one that we did, right? So you can try that. Like you'll have, yes.
Can we like in module info class, I mean .java file, just commenting out the opens and writing a new opens?
Yeah, that is fine too. That's fine too. Let's do it this way. That's fine too. Just go and comment out the opens and just write down whichever package. So at least let's say you got to have 3-4 packages for each particular FXML file. You just replace it with the corresponding file. That's going to work. Okay.
I did in this way, and it worked.
Yeah, that is good suggestion. Let's do it this way. So I can go and replace your module info Java file, and I can just replace to whichever package it is, and it has to run, okay, for this way. Okay, it's kind of specific problem just for us to make sure that you can make all these tasks in one particular project. I'd rather do it in a better way at how I do it, but it will make your life a little bit difficult. I would rather make a one big main window with 4 buttons, okay, and the first button is a problem 1 button. You go and click it, and then it goes and loads the screen for the first problem, and the second button goes to the second problem, so something like that. I'd like to make, I would make the entire thing as a big, okay, GUI application, but I don't want you guys spending much time on that. You can simply replace, okay, or comment out this particular part, and I just see, okay, how to run each of your programs, okay?
Professor?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we also can just override start method in main and just change the start.
Here?
Yes.
If you have multiple fxml files in the same package.
Yes.
Yes, I mean that is.
So
but I was thinking you're gonna have like different packages, not different fxml files, but different packages.
Yes,
I
yes,
think
there
it
should be
doesn't
like
matter if you create in the same package. It doesn't matter. You just change the name of the fxml.
You can do it. You can do it this way too, but that is not organized because they have 3 different things in the same package. It will be more organized. It will be more organized to have everything in one in 5 different packages or 4 different packages, and then just replace this here, and I can run this or that package selectively. It would be even more organized if I had the 5th package, which could combine all the things, okay, from those packages into one panel, facade with buttons, and I can click those buttons, okay, and then it loads the windows from those packages. This would be the perfect scenario. But again, this is
in this way.
Huh?
Previous lab, I created in this way. I created 5 or 6 packages, and I had only one main and one module info Java XML or module info Java.
Okay, that's good.
That's
good. That's fine too. I'm not saying that's bad. That's fine too.
Okay.
I'm just giving you like possible scenarios, possible like ways of organizing this this kind of task. But in the real life, okay, in the real life situation, you have single window, the main window from which you're going to load other windows, okay? So that's the reason you just need to have one single module info file for this entire application. And within this package, you can go and create as many fxml files you want, but you need to have a single main, and module info has to direct to this main file, right? That is kind of something that you need to understand, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so let's come back to the point where we stopped. Okay, so let me go and finish this this thing. I hope everything is self-explanatory here. But if you don't understand, please tell me what you don't understand. So what I'm doing is I'm creating, okay, a database table, and so it's a standard SQL. Okay, so. Yeah, so these are the composite. Yes.
You said that the varchars is like strings, right?
Yeah, it is a string, and this is the size of the string. You need to give the size of the string. Okay, this is the maximum size. You cannot give like a value which is greater than 30. And this means not null means is a constraint. It means that this column cannot be null. Your user must provide a value to this particular table, because if you just skip this part, it will be nullable, okay? But if you put this additional constraint, that means that user cannot create a record leaving this particular field empty. Okay, that's a database constraint, and we are writing this constraint here. Okay, once we do this, we can just go and create some sample. This one, let me go and copy that. Okay, I don't want to spend much time here. So basically what I want to do is I'd like to create two records, okay? So, and I can do it within one insert statement. So I'm not going to say address ID because it is an identity. Identity means it gets auto-incremented, okay? So it is an identity. So all I need to do is I need to provide these fields, and I'm saying I have to provide these fields, and these are the values, right? So I'm just creating some sample data, right? So this is my SQL file. It creates the table and it populates it with some data, right? And now I'd like to run this SQL file in the database. So how can I do this? So first of all, I have to come back to my terminal, and you can see my terminal is inside AddressBook here. So I have to come back here and go to the DB folder. Remember, this is the DB folder. I'm here, and my SQL file is in this place. Yeah, you can see it's here. Okay, so the next thing that I would like to do is I'd like to go and run my I would like to run the Derby's special tool at an interface, a client that helps me to interact with the databases. If you come back to the Derby bin folder, you're going to see this ij.bat file, right? I can go and call it directly, like, I mean, if I go and add this particular path into my environment variables, I can go and access this ij.bat file, okay, from anywhere from in my console. Or because I registered this my Derby as a library, as a Java library, basically when I run this particular path file, I registered my Derby as a Java application, Java class, and I can go and call this particular thing from its class namespace as well, because this particular Derby was registered as a Java class as well. So I can go and do it this way too. So if I do so, you can see that it goes and opens me the IJ console, and this IJ console plays a role of a client to Derby database. So how can I go and create a database using this console, IJ console? So I can go and say connect JDBC, and JDBC is the—
Professor, there's a typo. Connect.
Yeah, sorry, exactly. JDBC. Okay, so JDBC is a set of APIs, okay, set of interfaces that allow the Java applications to interact with any database without knowing the details of the database itself. Okay, so and any database vendor like Apache Derby, they have to implement the drivers implement the interfaces that the JDBC specifies in order to establish certain way of like a communication with the database. So you don't care about the implementation, how these drivers are implemented. The drivers are implemented by the vendors, but the JDBC is kind of an open standard that Java developers, the database developers have to implement if they want their database management systems to be integrated with the Java applications. Okay, so that's why we're saying JDBC. And now we're going to say which database. Okay, so we say Derby, and then the name of the database. Okay, so we're going to say AddressBook. Okay, and then we have to say create true. Okay, so we have to say create equal to true. If we do so, what it will do is it will go and check if the database exists. If it doesn't exist, it goes and create it. So I go and I press enter, and now it basically created it. So, and it also connected to this database. Now I can go and run my current AddressBook.sql and that semicolon. Okay, don't forget the semicolon at the end. It's important. That basically delimits the end of your comment, right? So, and remember, this is the AddressBook.sql, and it's located in the DB file. So I can go and do this. Now it goes and executes this script that I just wrote here. It executed it. So I can go and now check if it actually works. So I can go and say addresses and the semicolon. And if I do so, it basically shows me the table for that particular query. I can go and write any query here, for example, I can go and write from addresses where, and I can say the first name is equal to Mike, right? And basically shows me the Mike, right? So you can go and play with this IJ client, okay, as you wish. You can go and create other tables, but make sure you create them in a separate file and then you run them, okay? And this way, like, it's easier to write in a file and then query and play. I mean, write your queries, okay? Here you can write insert queries as well and everything. So, and you can see all the data, everything that you basically can do this. This is a neat tool for working with the database just from your console, okay? So good, so I can go and disconnect from this database. So I have to say disconnect and semicolon. And if I want to exit from this console, I just write exit and it exits from the IJ console. But now if I go back into my DB folder, now you're going to see it has the Derby log file, but also created this, okay, AddressBook database folder. So now I have this AddressBook folder. All I need to do is I can go and use it in my application. Okay, good. So now what I want to do is I would like to go and, so I created the database. I can see that it basically has the data. Now let's just switch our attention a little bit to a different place, to the place where we just need to go and design the window. So let's do things in a step-by-step manner. So first, the task was we had to create a database. So we created this database and we populated it with additional data. So the next thing we need to do is we need to go and design the main window. And the main window should look like this, okay? So let's go and design this main window. And there's this main window with the contacts and everything. So let's go and design it first. So it's not related to the database at all, but okay, once we finish this, then we can go and start dealing with the actual database and logic related part. Okay, so in order just to save time, I will just drag and drop things. Okay, so you guys don't spend much time. So first of all, let me go and change this thing. So I want top center. Okay, so I also want the padding of my grid plane to be 1010. And the next thing I would like to do is I'd like to place a label. This label is just this one. I'm indicating the place it is located, right? So addresses. And the next thing that I'd like to do is a new component. We haven't discussed about this new component. It's called a table view component, and it shows your data in a table form. Okay, so and it's a standard thing. I can go and indicate its location. So it's row 0, right? So it has a property called columns. And inside the columns, I can go and say first name. And I can say last name. And I can say email, right? This is what I want to show. And phone number. Right. So I just created this one. Let me go and start my main application and see this particular table view. What is that? As you can see, it's just an empty grid. So it has this column names and everything. So let me just make sure that the size of the width, this one is bigger. Okay, so I can go and change the size. And for that, I just need to go and set the pref width to 100. Let's go and make it a little bit bigger. And I can make it 100 as well. Okay. So this is a new control. So we got addresses and we got this thing. There's nothing inside this particular table yet, but it's going to be populated with our database records, everything like that. But now we also need an H box, right? A horizontal box. Why do we need a horizontal box? Because we would like to place all these controls, okay, at the bottom, right? So that's why we need a H box. So I'm going to say H box. And what is the position for this H box? The row index is 2. Let's go and set it to 2. So now, let me go and put some spacing as well, because I don't want my controls to be mushed up together. So the next thing I just want to do is just want to go and create some, text fields. So let me just copy paste all these text fields. You know how to create all those text fields and the buttons. Okay, and okay, so now these are just text fields. You got a prompt text and it has some width, prompt text, and this IDs. Okay, by the way, let me go and give an ID for this guy as well. And I call it TBL. I call it TBL addresses. Okay, is it clear? So now I got like 5 controls, right? And some methods that I would like to do. So let me go and first create these things in my controller. Okay, you remember how to create all that stuff? We have to create these components in our controller so we can go and access them. So let me go and do the same for the other controls. So I can go and do something. Okay, and I just need 2 methods, right? I just need 2 methods. I'm referring to these methods, add address and delete address methods. I just need them inside my controller. So I'm going to say public void add address, right? And I just need another public void delete address. Okay, so don't forget to put the annotations, otherwise it might cause a compilation error. So we just put the annotations everywhere. And these are the annotations for these methods. And now there's no problem. Now let's go and start and see how it looks. So I'm going to run the application. Okay, now it looks good, right? It looks pleasing. So I got first name, last name. Maybe I'll just make, I don't know, anyway, the first name, last name, and the email and the phone number, and some buttons for adding and deleting. Okay, and some the data fields here we just need to populate. Okay, so now we got a GUI. Oh, I don't really like hello world. Let me go and change the hello world to here in the main addresses, or let me go and call it AddressBook. Okay, cool. So now what I want to do is I created the design of the, I created a database. I created the design window. The next thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to implement the, business logic. But, how I do start implementing the business logic. First of all, I just need to go and create something that represents address, the address records. Here in my database, addresses is just a table, and every address is just a record, right? It's just a row here, right? So, but I'm not dealing with rows in an object-oriented world. I'm dealing with objects, right? So I just need something which would represent this entity to me, something that's kind of an address, because in an object-oriented world, I'm dealing with objects. I'm not dealing with rows. Row is a very, very generalized abstraction. I don't really need that. I have to be like I have to be more specific about what sort of row it's an address. I'm dealing with that one. So I have to go and create a plain class called address, and this address instance is going to represent addresses in my database, right? So let me go and do that. So I'll go and create a new class. Again, make sure that it's in the same package. I'll call it address. Okay, and I'll go and create a field called first name. So let me go and do the same thing. I can copy those fields here. So these are the fields, right? Address ID, first name, last name, email, and phone number. Okay. All I need to do is I just need to go and create getters and setters, and my ID will courteously create all that stuff for me. I don't need to write any code myself. Okay. So went on and it gave me all that stuff. Right. Good. So I don't need anything. It's just a simple. Sometimes these kind of classes are called POJOs. I don't know if you heard about that. Plain, okay, old Java objects. I think it stands for that. Plain old Java objects, POJOs, okay? It's a POJO class. It has only fields and getters and setters, nothing else, nothing more than that, okay? And most of the times, like when we deal with kind of things, we deal with the POJO objects, okay? So the POJO objects are clean and nice and easy to understand. Okay, good. So the next thing we'd like to do is, okay, we need to go and create some sort of a data access layer. Some class which is responsible for pulling these addresses from the database, right? And or pushing those addresses back to the database. So it has to go and convert our rows, our database rows, into address objects, okay? And a collection of address objects, and vice versa, the other way around. So we need to go and have a dedicated class for that. So, and I call this dedicated class as the address repository. Again, this kind of address repository can be replaced with an entire frameworks like ORM frameworks, like Hibernate, for example, can replace this repository. But unfortunately, the topic of like ORM mapping and all that stuff is not included. It is not a part of this particular lecture. But we're going to talk. Don't worry, we're going to talk about ORMs and everything in other classes like in programming. Okay. So the point here is just to use a good design pattern, a pattern of it's called an object repository pattern or data object DAO. Okay, something like that. DAO pattern. If my memory is not okay, putting me down, it's DAO pattern, data access objects pattern or something like that. Let's just leave it like this. Okay, it's a design pattern as well. You just have a dedicated class which is responsible for all your data access layer. So in this particular, it's pretty easy. You just need these methods inside. Okay, add, delete, and update. Because we are not doing the cell-based update, we can skip this one. Okay, so we just need this 3 methods. Most of the times, again, update. These are called sometimes CRUD methods. Okay, or this one. So this address repository must contain these methods, right? We're not going to implement update because updating might be might require something else. Okay, good. So let's go and define these methods. So first of all, I'd like to have the get method. So get method should return me the address. So I'll say ID and I'll say address ID. The next method that I like to implement is the getAll method, and it returns all the addresses. So, and for that, I need to use an interface called observable list. It is an interface for it is a list, but it has additional methods, like because the methods of an observable object, the methods of a subject. You remember the observer pattern? It needs to have notify all and register unregister observers method. So all these methods should be there It's just a standard list with add and remove methods, right? But it has additional methods like notify all and all that stuff, right? You remember, you just go and remember the observer pattern. It's basically a list which implements the observer pattern, and the list is now a subject. And why do we need it? Because whenever we make a change in our GUI, we want our object to be notified about the changes, right? Or whenever the object gets changed, the GUI needs to, sorry, the vice versa, the other way around, sorry. Whenever your objects change, okay, you want to notify the GUI component, like a table view or a list box or anything, about that change, because the GUI needs to update and then show that this particular record is deleted there. Okay, that's the reason we need an observable list. Okay, so and get all doesn't take anything else, and we need okay, we need the add method. Okay, add method can return a string. The string is, and it takes the address. So let's go and put some comment what this string means. Okay, returns the ID of the new row. Okay, otherwise it might be confusing what that, why it's string, why it's not void or something. Okay, because when we add a new address, we want the ID of in the database, right? Okay, and then we just need a void and then delete, and delete just needs address ID, and that's it. So we just need to implement these 4 methods, right? So okay, good. So now how are we going to implement that? So we're going to implement it using okay, first of all, if you remember, address repository is not just an ordinary class. It is a class which can be instantiated only once, right? We don't need multiple address repositories everywhere. So what sort of a class it is? Can someone tell me? Hello? Hello? Can someone tell me what type of a class address repository is? You cannot create it more than once. It is a singleton, right? Yeah, singleton?
Oh yes, yes, singleton. Yes.
So let's go and implement singleton. Right, so you know how to implement singleton. You guys learned design patterns, right? So, and singleton has a static parameter type called this with the same type, and it has a hidden, okay, a private constructor, right? And it has another method, static method, okay, with the same return type, the same type as the class type. And what it does, if it's a lazy, this one, it basically doesn't instantiate. It instantiates it only when someone requests it, right? It goes and checks if the instance is null, then it goes and instantiates it, and it instantiates it once. Okay, so this is called lazy loading, right? So we just do the lazy loading, okay? Or lazy instantiation or something. Only when the first time this guy is called, then it gets instantiated, okay? Not at the beginning of the program. Okay, now the question is, what gets instantiated? What is that gets instantiated? That's important thing. So first of all, I need to go and create a connection to the database. So what is a connection? I just need to have a connection object. So let me go and import this particular array. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. I have to import Java SQL. Okay, so yeah, see, it highlights it. I mean, red. Well, why? Because I need to add this into my module info. So if you come back to the module info, yeah, I forgot to add it here, java.sql. Okay, so I just need to go and add this because it's a SQL library and it represents the, it's a JDBC namespace. It represents all the interfaces that are necessary for me to work with any database. And again, I'm here working with interfaces. Connection is just an interface. Okay, I'm not going to, okay, I'm getting this connection from the database, driver manager. And the driver manager knows which connection object to give me in the real instance, okay, based on my, okay, connection string. So, okay, so here is my connection. And what is my connection string? Okay, my connection string is just a constant. So let's go and make it static. Sorry, not static, final string database URL. And remember how we connected to the database? We just need to write the same thing. Derby in IJ. Remember how we connected? Yeah, but here we just need to write the path because our application is running in this particular directory. So we have to go to the DB directory, and inside the DB directory we have the address book. Okay, so we just go and write some relative path, and this is the relative path for our database. Okay, so good. So how can we go and create a new connection? We have a driver manager, get connection, and database URL. And it says, okay, it could have an exception if the database doesn't exist or driver doesn't exist. So I go and make sure that it throws out this exception rather than handling it. It just throws out. If you won't be able to create a repository if the database driver is not installed or the database is not there or anything else. Okay, so it just throws it out. You don't have to handle it here, and you just throw it out as well. So you throw it away. I mean, throws means the caller, okay, the one who is creating this particular address repository instance is responsible for handling this particular exception, okay? I'm not responsible for that. I'm just doing the repository work. Okay, so I'm just like shifting the responsibility of handling this exception from this class to the class which is calling this class, okay? You got the idea, right? This throws, what throws means, right? Okay, good. So I created this one. So now I just need to go and write some methods. So let me go and copy paste this select statements. These are nothing but strings, okay? So these are just select statements. I'm not going to type in all of that. I just got everything prepared. So these are just constants. This is strings. This is select statements. The only thing that you might see here is this question mark. Okay, what the hell to do with this question mark? This question mark is just a placeholder. We can go and put some values, inject, let's say, some values into this question marks, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so these question marks are just the placeholders, the place where you just want to put some value, but sometimes you don't need anything. Just let's say you are getting all the queries, you don't need that. Okay, so this is a query for getting all the addresses. This is a query for getting a particular address by its ID. This is a query for adding a new address, right? So does it resemble these SQL? It resembles, right? So this is the SQL. You indicate the fields and then indicate the values. You got 4 fields, 4 values. Note that we are not adding the address ID field into the list because address ID field is an auto increment field. It gets automatically incremented by the database management system. And then we have another SQL, which is deleting a record. And here we just need to say, okay, we are deleting from the addresses table, but the address ID has to be equal to something. And I'm just saying question mark. Why do I need the 5th one? Okay, remember when I add insert, okay, record, okay, I just want to know what is the ID of the newly created record. and because I have to be returning that when I add this one, right? So that's why I need this particular query. What does it do? It just simply finds the maximum address ID. So once you go and add a particular address, okay, it increments the address ID automatically, and the maximum one will be the just added one, okay? The just added address one. So I just simply get that one and I just return it as the ID of the newly created address record. Okay, these are the 5 different select statements I have, and I just created them as constants because I don't need to go and make any changes inside these select statements. Now, the next thing that I need to do is I have to go and create a special type of objects called prepared statement, okay? So the prepared statement is something that comes again from this namespace, from the JDBC interface. Again, this is an interface. This is an interface, and it has a bunch of methods, but its implementation, again, depends on the database management system and the drivers and everything, okay? We get this connection instance from the database driver like this, and we can also get all these prepared statements from this object, okay? So note, we are dealing with interfaces. See, it's an interface. This is an interface. We're dealing with these abstractions. There is nothing concrete about those things, okay? There's nothing concrete. The only concrete thing is this thing. Yes, we are saying it's Derby, but if we change this particular URL to SQLite, then it will be a SQLite, okay? Nothing in our code gets changed. That makes our Java application independent from, okay, the database management system it uses, okay? So that's the important thing that the JDBC actually provides. It unifies every database management system under the same set of interfaces. And this prepared statement is an interface. I need this objects of this particular interface to run my queries, okay? So how can I go and create them? Straightforward. This connection object has a prepare statement method where you need to go and pass the select statement query. So I'm just passing these queries and I'm just getting those things instantiated for me, right? So I'm just asking the connection to get me all these prepared statements for me. So now I got my prepared statements. Now let's go and implement the get method first, right? So get method is the easiest one. Okay, so what should I do? Okay, I have to go and create a separate object called result set. And the result set contains a database record. I mean, the current record in the database, right? So it doesn't contain the data, the full data, it just contains the current record. Okay, so I'll explain you later on. Let me go ahead and then okay, create this one. So this is the address that I'm going to return. This is the result that I get from the database. So how can I get the database? First of all, you remember this get statement is already instantiated, and it's instantiated using this get query, right? Let's take a look into the get query. Oh, it has this question mark. I need to fill it with the value. How can I go and fill this question mark with the value? Okay, using the get statement object that I created using this method. I just need to go find that get statement object, and it has a set string method or whichever value that I would like to inject there. Okay, that is going to be a string anyway. I can go and put integer too. So if I say set string, and then I have to give the index of the parameter. Note, indexes in SQL start from 1, not from 0. Okay, let me just go and write it with capital letters. Column indices start from 1. Okay, not from 0. Again, this sounds weird. This is the first one. Okay, in this case, this is the 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is 1. This is 1. Okay, so I have to say 1, and then I have to put the value that I would like to place into this. So this is the value that I'd like to place in this particular position, right? In this particular position. And I'm calling, I got this query, I passed it to get query, created this prepared statement. Now I'm calling the prepared statements set string method, and then setting the first parameter to this value. Okay, it's saying it is going to cause an exception. Okay, let's throw it away. So I set the value. I have no other parameters to fill. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to get the results. How can I get the results? It's very easy. Get a statement, and I say execute query. And if I say execute query, it simply goes and captures the first record in the result set. It doesn't download the entire data set into your computer, right? It just goes and points to the first, okay? Peaks to the first record in your database table. If your database is located, let's say, in a different computer, let's say if it's a MySQL, in a different computer, a different server, and then you're selecting, let's say, 1,000 records, 100,000 records, okay? It's not going to download all your 100,000 records into this particular object. It will not do this. It will simply go on the server side. It will go one by one, each record, and it sends each record to you. How can you go and read that? You're going to say next. Next, we're going to go means next means go and read this record. Okay, go and read this record. So let me go and draw that for you, maybe, so you're going to understand what I really mean. So the result set is a very neat construct, and you need to understand how it works, because it's going to save you a lot of time, okay, in the future. Okay, so what do we have here? So we have our application, right? Our Java app, whichever Java, and then let's imagine that in the current case scenario, our application and our DBMS are within the same file, within the same directory. But it could be a case, again, it could be a case that your DBMS is a separate application running somewhere. And it could be, I don't know, Oracle, if you like. It's a separate application, right? And it maintains all your database files in its disk and something like that. So DB, your actual DB thing. So when you go and send the request, something like select from, let's say, addresses. And let's say you got 100 addresses in this database. It's not going to send you all 100 addresses in one batch. Instead, it will send you a promise. Let's say something like a result set. So here, let's say this is a table. Addresses. And and then your result will be pointing to this particular first row. It hasn't read it yet, but it's pointing to the, now this is your result set, right? This particular table is the result. It came from this particular query, okay? It could be something else. It's not necessarily a table that exists in your database. It is basically the result of this query, okay? Anything that comes out of this query is like this. It's given like a table like this. It's given like a view like this. And the first row is indicated like this, just pointing to that one. And the result set object contains this pointer, or something. It's called a cursor as well. This cursor, it contains an information about this cursor, okay? So every time you go and call next method, it's going to read this value. So this value goes and travels to your application from the database. And now it goes and loads all the data here, okay? So the first row, right? So let me go and write down the code. Okay, so and then you say return address. Yeah. Okay, so so every time you go and do this, it goes and reads this. And yeah, I forgot to add the constructor to this address. That anyway, that's why it's showing. But now you can go and read the columns of this particular row by calling the get string, or if the column is a date, or sorry, integer, you're going to call get integer. If the column is something like a boolean, you're going to say get boolean. You can read. So you can read by calling whichever method you want. Okay, you can give the index of the column, but it's better to go and call give the name of the column. So column name in a string. So it goes and reads these tables columns, okay, into certain values. So I'm using these values in creating this address object. And now you finish it. Now you call it next again. Your cursor moves to the second line, right? Yeah, after reading this, your cursor moves to the second line. So it moves in this direction, second line. And again, next time you go and call next, it goes and reads this row and sends that information back to you, and so forth. So every time you call the next method, it moves it reads the value and moves the cursor down, 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 down. And let's say you're at the end of your result list, and then you called next. Okay, so it goes and reads that, and now it moves this into the null, right? So then, so if it's pointing to the null, if it's pointing to the end of the document, and then you go call next again, it will, okay, it cannot move the cursor anymore, right? So it simply returns false. So it will not repeat this loop again. I mean, if in this case, if it's if, but it could be a loop as well. So in this case, if it's a loop, then it's going to be running all the time like this. So in this way, you're going to understand, you're going to walk through the database, which is located remotely somewhere, and then pull the records one by one into your application, and then read them in your application like this. Okay, so that is how basically it works. Okay, so it's very efficient, especially when you're dealing with thousands of records. You don't have to download all the thousands of records into your application. If you are like displaying, let's say, only 100 records, so you can simply use this idea there. Okay, let me go and create a constructor for the address. I think I haven't created a constructor. That's why it's causing the problem. So I'm not going to write it down. I just simply go and create a constructor. The constructor is pretty simple. It just takes all the values and then simply assigns them, right? And now I got my new address. I'm simply returning the new address. Okay, cool. So let's go and implement the same thing for get all. So what is in the get all? Okay, I have to return the observable list interface. Okay, which implementation of it? FX collections implementation. It gives me a real instance of an observable array list, which basically has the same interface and the results. And I just need to go and execute the query. Note, I'm not setting any parameter, any value. Why? Because it doesn't have any question marks here, right? This particular statement, get all statement, doesn't have any question marks. So I don't need to fill in any of these parameters. All I need to do is just need to get all statement, execute the query, got the results. Okay, now I just need to iterate through the results and then add all these, okay, new address objects into my list, and then simply send this list as the element. Okay, so what is add? Okay, in add I have to populate a little bit more fields. Let me go and add the throw exception here. So now I got four parameters, right? First name, last name, email, phone number. I'm getting them from the address that is passed to me. And I'm just filling in the parameters, these parameters. Let me show you these parameters. I'm filling in these parameters.
Sorry, can I ask?
Yes.
Question. Your result takes data from SQL, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Wait, let me show you. Okay, I think you guys are not getting it. Okay, let me go one step by step. What's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
I got this result set. It is an object which contains an information about the cursor back in the database. This is one. And the second thing that the result set does, it knows how to pull the rows from the database. This object encapsulates this functionality. Okay, it has this next method, which can pull the data from the database. You got it?
Yes.
Okay, so when I call this get all statement execute query, this gives me this result object, okay, which I can use to pull the data from the database. But what is this get all statement? It is this object. It is this object. It's a prepared statement object, and it's an interface, but it's an object of this guy, right? What is this prepared statement object? What is this guy? It is created like this. I have a connection object, which I got from this URL. This URL, you remember, I used this particular path connection string to connect to the database that I have using IJ. I'm using exactly the same one, but I mean, it's relative to the path. So I'm using this connection string, and driver manager gives me the connection object, which has the same interface as this connection interface. Gives me that, and using this connection interface, I can create prepared statements. What is a prepared statement? Prepared statement is an SQL statement with a placeholder, okay? Or, I mean, it can have a placeholder, it cannot have a placeholder. Is it clear to you?
Yes, clear.
So I'm creating a prepared statement, and create a prepared statement, I need to pass an SQL string. And this particular thing, this particular constant is in fact just a string. And some of these SQLs have placeholders that can be filled with values. You got the point? I'm just creating a prepared statement. It's just a template statement with placeholders in it. Okay? You got the point?
I understood. Yes, I understood.
So now I created this particular add statement object, and it's using this add query. This is the add query. It has these 4 placeholders. Placeholder number 1, 2, 3, 4. It has, I mean, the right word for this one is called parameters. Let's use the word parameters, not placeholders. It has 4 parameters, okay? Parameter number 1, parameter number 2, and so forth. So I created a prepared statement. It's a template statement, but in order to execute it, I need to set these parameters to some values. Otherwise, it's going to throw this SQL exception to me, right? So in order not to have this kind of SQL exception, I need to pass these 4 parameters to this statement. I'm passing them, and these are, I'm saying set string because this is a string. If I want to pass to this parameter, let's say an integer, I have to say set integer and pass the integer. If I want to pass a Boolean, I have to say set Boolean and pass the Boolean. Is it clear to you?
Yes, clear.
So I'm setting these parameters, and then I can go and execute the query. But here, it is not a query. Query returns me a result set, some value. But this is not a query. This is an update, okay? It doesn't return me any value, right? Right?
All right.
So I can go and call a different method called execute update, not execute query. Don't get confused. Execute query method returns me the result. The execute update method instead returns me the number of rows. It just returns an integer, and this integer represents the number of rows updated in my database. So it has to return, if everything is correct, it has to return 1 here because I'm adding just 1 record, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I'm checking, okay, if it's greater than 0 or just 1, whatever. If it's 1, then I'm going and calling another method. Which method? Sorry, another query. Which query? This query. Why do I need this query? Because I want to know the ID of the newly created address row, right? Remember?
Yes, yes.
I prepared a statement for that SQL, and it doesn't even need any particular parameter because it doesn't have question marks. So I'm simply going and executing it, getting the result, okay? The pointer to the result, calling next to read the value from the pointer. Okay, I just need 1 value. I don't need several values. That's why I'm calling next only 1 time. And then I'm just simply reading the first column. Again, columns, parameter indexes, everything starts from 1 in SQL. Don't get confused. I'm just reading the first value. And the first value is, in fact, the value that represents the ID for the newly added, okay, address. Okay, you got it. So I'm just returning that as an output. And if nothing of these is just then returning the 0. And deleting is just a piece of cake. Okay.
Okay.
So deleting is a piece of cake. Why? All I need to do is, what should I do? I just need to pass a single, okay, value to this particular select statement, delete statement. And I have to pass it through this delete statement method. What I'm doing, I'm getting the address ID, I'm passing the first parameter, this value, and I'm simply calling the execute update method. Okay, because it's an update, doesn't yield any results, right? Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So this was the most important part of this lecture. That's why I want you to fully understand how this whole concept works. This is the most important. I put all the database related thing into single class called address repository. Nowhere else in my application I'll be using database at all. The database related stuff is within this particular class. It's not scattered everywhere in my application. I have my application and I have a class which is responsible for database. And this is the guy, I mean, not just for database, a particular table in this database. And this is the guy which is responsible for that particular table called address repository. Is it clear?
Professor,
Yes.
one more question. We use delete, yes, in SQL. What about drop? Will drop just drop all data from row?
Okay, let me explain you the difference between the drop and the delete.
Drop. No, I know differences, but I thought that we should use drop for deleting all row.
No.
Oh?
Drop is a keyword in SQL. Drop is a keyword for deleting structures. SQL? No, structures. Structures like tables, views, procedures, triggers. There are a lot of structures, okay, inside your like entities, abstractions inside your database, other than the tables. Like if you go in, I mean, again, this is outside the topic of scope of our class. You're going to have a different class called databases, and you're going to learn about different structures that exist in a database management system, like views, like tables, for example, you have synonyms, you have indices. You got what else? You got triggers. Yeah, no, it's not a transaction. Is not a structure. Triggers, procedures. Okay, and so many different things. I cannot like list you all of those structures. You can go and create all of these structures inside your database management system. And for those things, you have to use the keyword drop. Delete is a special keyword for removing records only, for rows, okay? If you have a table row, you have to use delete, okay? So delete has only one use. It is just deleting a row. That's only thing where you can use delete, okay?
Okay.
So that's the case. You don't have to use drop. Drop is something for just general, for all structures that you have inside your database manager. Delete is something that you have to deal with when you're dealing with the deletions. Okay, good. So we have the repository, we have the delete and everything. So now I think we're done with our repository. So you can pop a champagne. So we did the hardest part. Okay. So let's go and so basically got the repository. So now we need to go and implement the business logic. Okay. So what is the business logic? So business logic is what we want to do. We would like to populate this particular table with our collection of observable arrays. I mean, with the collection of addresses, right? With an observable list of addresses. We'd like to populate. We have to call getAll method, and then we have to do that thing. So, okay, that's the important thing that I'd like to do. Okay. So in order to do so, let me go and create a private variable here inside my controller. And call it observable list address. And call it addresses, right? And in my controller, I can go and define a method called initialize. Remember, this method exists, and this method is called every time your controller is created. So you remember, this method is there. And inside this method, I just need to go and say addresses is equal to address repository get instance get all, right? And it's saying, okay, this one, let me go and handle this, because you remember, get instance returns us the SQL exception. Let me go and handle it here. So I'm going to handle it here. So I'm not just passing it away to the upper classes. I'm just handling it, localizing this handling here. So I populated this addresses observable list, right? Now the next thing that I need to do is I have this object, right? The table view, right? I have this object. So I can go, and this is a GUI component, and it has a method called setItems. And I just want to set the source, the items for this particular table view that I have here. I'm passing some items, some objects to this guy. Okay, good. Now, but this guy, okay, has some columns, but it doesn't know how to display. Yeah, I'm passing addresses. What is addresses? Address is just a collection of address objects. What is an address object? Address object has a bunch of properties: address ID, first name, last name, email, phone number, all that stuff, right? This is just nothing but this object. How does this table know that it needs to go and display in this particular column the first name property of the address object, and in this particular part the last name property, and so forth? How does it know that? It doesn't know this, right? So you not make sure that this table view knows which property of the address object it has to display here. I need to go and write additional I have to set the additional property. So this property is called cell value factory property. Okay, cell value factory property of the table column object. And here it takes an object called the property value factory. And here I just need to write down the name of the property that this particular column has to display. So what is my address property? Okay, it's the first name, right? I want this first name property of my, okay, the first name property of my address object to be displayed in this particular column. That's why I say first name, right? And the same goes for the last name. Same goes for the email. Sorry, don't mix the typing. Phone number. Make sure that you write exactly the same way how you define those properties inside your address object. These are the names of your properties, right? Make sure you write them in exactly the same way. So now you mapped your object property to the table column. You did the mapping. Now this table view knows how to display all that stuff. Let me go and run it. And here we go, voila. We got this records in our addresses table, right? But we don't have this thing still working. I'm pressing add or delete. It's not deleting or adding. So let's go and do it very quickly. So you remember we got this add methods here. So add is also very, very simple, right? So what should we do here? You just need to go and create a new address, right? And how are we going to get the new address? Okay, first of all, we need to provide the address ID, but we don't know the address ID, so we're passing just an empty string, okay? Because it's going to be generated by the database itself. Now we got a text box which represents the first name, right? And I got a text box which represents the last name, and I got a text box which represents the email, and I got a text box which represents the phone number. I just created a new address object. Now the next thing that I can do is, okay, I just need to go and say repository get instance add address, right? But what I need to do is, okay, first of all, I need to handle this error because it returns an SQL exception. Let me go and handle it locally. Okay, but you remember this add method returns you the string, the address ID of the newly created address. I just want to know, I just want to store this information as well because it is useful. It could be useful when I'm deleting this address, right? So how can I do this? All I need to do is set address ID and something like that. So I'm executing the add method. This is going to give me the address ID back, and I'm setting the address ID of this newly created address object, right? Is it clear to you guys? And the next thing that I need to do is just add it to my list, right? I have a local list, remember? This list is connected to my table addresses database through this particular method. I'm just simply adding this address to this list because this list is an observable list. It notifies this guy, because you remember set items will automatically subscribe itself to this particular subject. So it notifies this guy about the change that happened in this particular place. So this guy gets updated and it now displays my new address. You got the point. Is it clear? So let's go and test that. Let's go and test that. So I can go and write my name, some email, phone number, and I press add. And it's not working. So what could be the problem? Oh, I put it to delete address, sorry. I had to put it inside add address, right? So let's try again. Okay, so I'll say server, the live, and let me put some numbers and press add. You can see it's working. So Sanjar, Hakimov, for example, and something else, and some phone number, say, and it's working. Cool. So if I go and close this application, and if I run it back, it still loads, or it will store all the information that I just created. It will not go anywhere, right? So you can see all the data that I created is stored and it's displayed in this nice and clean form, right? And the last thing that I need to do is just to go and implement the delete option. And delete option is even easier than that. All I need to do is I need to find out which item is selected and then convert it into this one. So what I need to do is I need to have table access, get selection model, get selected item will give me the currently selected record. And the currently selected record is an address. So I'm doing the downcasting here. Okay. Why I need to downcasting? Because I need to get the address ID of this particular object. That's why I need to do the downcasting. This returns me just a generic object. Okay. So, and the next thing that I need to do is, okay, delete, right? Pass the get address ID of the selected address. I'm passing the address ID of it. I'm deleting it. And I'm deleting it from the database, and I'm deleting it from my table view list. Okay. I'm just deleting it in 2 places simultaneously. Okay. So I just need to wrap it up with the event handler. Sorry, the not event handler, the
exception handler.
Exception handler, sorry. So I have to get it from the exception. Oh, let me go and put this one inside exception handler too. Okay, cool. So now I got that, and that is it. Hopefully that should work. So let me go and delete something. So let me go and delete Sanjar. So I select Sanjar and I press delete, and it goes and deletes Sanjar. So if I go and reload everything, you're going to see that Sanjar is gone. I'm going to start again, and you're going to see the Sanjar is gone. I can go and add any person here, and I can delete anyone that I want to do. It would be better if I just go and show some like alert, confirmation alert. You know how to create confirmation alerts. Which asks if I really want to delete this particular record. And if I say yes, it goes and deletes, because I might accidentally click this and I might lose the contact, right? I don't want that. So go and confirm it with the alert box, okay? And then you can do that. It's one. You know how to create alerts, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. Okay, good. So I think we did most of the tasks, okay? Now, the only thing that we would like to have is, okay, good. That's a clean, good application. How can I go and make it work on my friend's computer who doesn't know programming, doesn't have anything to do with Java at all? How can I give this program to my friend, right? And so my friend can go and use it, because I think it's a useful application. It has a clickable buttons. It has a database. I think it's a proper application. How can I go and do that, right? Is it the question that you commonly ask yourself, guys?
Sometimes.
Yeah, because you're doing all this kind of programming, someone has to use it, right? So you need, yeah. So so you need to ship this particular thing to someone, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, so it's slightly, let's say, a little bit tricky with JavaFX, but if you understand the process clearly, you can do it yourself. Okay. First of all, you need to make sure that if you want to run this particular code program on your friend's computer must have Java 11. I mean, the same version or I mean Java 11 SDK installed on his computer. Without Java SDK or without like whichever distribution you're using, your application won't work. Also, your friend's computer must have JavaFX installed on his computer. So you need to install the actual Java SDK first, which is the platform, which is the place where your all Java code is going to run. Okay, you cannot run any Java code without having Java installed on it. Okay, so you go and install Java, and the Java has to be greater than 11. And the second thing you need to install is the JavaFX ML. These are just the libraries, okay? You just download the Java libraries into your friend's computer. So once you do this, now you're ready to ship your application to your friend's computer. So how are you going to ship it? So you're going to go into your project, and then you open your module settings here, okay? So in your module settings, you got this particular thing called artifacts, okay? This is the artifacts. So you select the artifacts, and you have some default JavaFX artifact. You just go and remove it. You don't need it. It doesn't work. I tested it. I spent, let's say, 2 or 3 hours trying to make it work. It doesn't work. It didn't work. So it is easier. There's an easier way. Okay. So I just select artifact. I press plus button, and then I click jar here. You have JavaFX application, everything, something like this. Don't choose this one. It's difficult. It will not work. Select jar file, and then select this guy. And now to ask, okay, what is the module name? Okay, it's called this one. And here you have to select what is the main class, the window that you're going to run. And it basically selects automatically this AddressBook main class because it has the main thread and everything. So you select this part, okay? And let me go and select this, okay. So now it goes and creates this jar file. Jar file contains all the necessary information for your application, right? It contains all that stuff. You press OK, right? So once you press OK, you can go to the build menu here, and here you can find the build artifacts option. So you go to build artifacts and then say build. So once you do the build, you're going to see how the build is getting ahead. Here you had a build tab, and now you can see it's building, still building, copying, finished. Okay, build completed successfully. Everything is good. So it says build completed successfully. Now you're going to see the artifacts table here. Sorry, the out folder here. So you can go into your show in Explorer, whatever, and you're going to find this jar file. This jar file is just a single file. It's basically a RAR file, okay? If you open it with your WinRAR, you're going to see all the compiled code, okay, everything, like all your code here, okay? You can find out all the code, all your address and main class and FXML files, everything. This is a compiled code, and you got module info and everything. So you got all these compiled class files, okay, which are bundled into one single file called jar file. Okay. So the next thing you're going to do is, okay, in order to make sure that this jar file works, okay, you need to go and copy your database as well, because this jar file doesn't work without a database. So where was your database? It's your database, right? So your database, you copy this database and put your database here. Make sure you copy it like a DB, okay? Because you remember the path was ./db/ this one, AddressBook. So you have this DB folder. Make sure that it's next to this your jar file. Now you want to run this jar file. How are you going to run this jar file? Okay. If you're not using JavaFX, if you're just using Swing, let's say, or just a simple console app, this would suffice. This would be enough to run this jar file. Let me go. You can simply go and create a batch file in Windows. If you're using Linux, then you can go and create some bash file. Okay. And here you can go and write Java jar and the name of your jar file. if it's just a Swing or if it's Swing or any console app, this should suffice. You can go and close the window and then say something like that, and it would simply work, okay? But in this case, it will not work. Why? If you go and run it like this, it's going to give you this kind of error. Because, as I said earlier, JavaFX is not part of your Java platform. It's an external library. You got the point. The Swing is still your standard Java library. Any other application is still your standard Java library, but JavaFX is not your standard library. You have to indicate the place to which you downloaded the JavaFX, okay, libraries in order to run this thing properly, okay? So let me go and show you that. So I prepared this thing beforehand. Okay, so let me copy that thing here. I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, copy here, copy here. Let me just delete this one and just copy this runback file. Okay, so what I have here is the module path, and where into the module path, I have to indicate the place where my JavaFX is downloaded. Okay, if you're going to run it on your friend's computer, then make sure that you indicate the place where you downloaded the JavaFX files. Okay, these are the JavaFX. It's a lib file, lib folder. You need to have all these jar files inside it. Okay, put it into some safe location, whatever. You indicate this particular path there, and then here you just write all the modules that you wrote inside your module info here. So JavaFX controls, JavaFX FXML, JavaFX SQL. You just simply go and comma separate it. Make sure that they are comma separated. You make sure you say add modules, and you just write down all these namespaces here. And the rest is exactly the same, jar and AddressBook2.jar file. So you save it. Everything is saved, right? Everything is saved. Let me go and open this AddressBook jar. Yeah. So now I got AddressBook jar 2, AddressBook jar 2 dash jar double dash add modules, and all the modules from my module info, and dash dash module path, and the path to my JavaFX libraries directory. So if I go and provide these two things inside my runbat, I can go and start my application. And as you can see now, it's working. Yeah, one bad thing is that you have to minimize it somehow, but now a JavaFX application is working, and it will work. So I can go call Davron Hoshimov, and let's say some and press add. Okay, and it simply adds. If I close it, and if I run it again, might take a little bit of time, but now it loads everything. Your data is not lost, and you can delete. Let me go and delete this guy. It simply goes and deletes. So your application is working. You can give this entire thing, you can zip entire thing into some zip file and then give it to your friend and ask your friend to go and run this particular bat. In this case, you know what? You can even zip it with your you see, you can download this JavaFX library, okay, into the same folder and indicate the relative folder location. In this place, module path here, and then your friend doesn't even need to go and download the JavaFX. All he needs to do is just go and install Java SDK on his computer, and then just unpack your zip file, and then simply run it. This thing is, you just download the JavaFX on your own, put it in the same location here, right? And then zip it into some file and give it to your friend. And just your friend goes and runs that, and it will work. It starts working on his computer. He can use your application. So is it clear?
Yes, Professor, can I ask?
Yes.
One question. Should our project be like this? Like jar file? No? Or
It is good.
Open.
It is not necessary. But if you upload it as a courtesy you don't have to upload it to your GitHub. You can upload it to online. Okay, this jar file. This way, I can play with it without even compiling your application. But most of the times, I will compile it. I'll compile it on my computer, and then I can test it, all that stuff. I should be able to run it on my IntelliJ, right? So I will be running things in IntelliJ. But again, it's up to you. It's not required. It's not written inside the requirements of your application. Okay. Sorry, in your project. You can add it into online, this one as a courtesy. If I look into this, I can just start playing with your application without even opening your project. But I'll definitely open your project and check your code. So that would be the way how I'd be looking into your project. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
So, I hope that was clear. Yeah, I understand was a little bit longer than expected today, but I hope it was informative and you guys learned a lot about databases and shipping your products and so forth, right? So any questions?
No questions, Professor. Thank you very much. It was very
Thank you,
cool.
Professor.
Thank you for you guys staying so long.
Really cool.
Okay, good. So yeah, great. So I'll upload this to YouTube and wait for the lecture as well. The lecture is coming, and in the lecture you're gonna learn how to do those things in Swing. So if you're interested, if you want to do things in Swing, that's also an option too. So just wait for the lecture. Okay, it's coming. It's just getting recorded. Okay, thank you for coming, and see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.